All right. So hello, welcome, and good day to everyone who has joined us here for this post-cricket committee meeting, press media briefing. For those joining on our Windies Cricket YouTube channel, a special welcome to you as well. Obviously, this press briefing follows a two-day emergency meeting which was geared to addressing cricket performance challenges. All right, let me introduce the panel. I guess everybody came to hear from them and not me. To my immediate left is the CEO of Cricket West Indies, Mr. Chris Derring. To his left is former captain, the legendary and batting great Brian Lara. To Brian's left is Enoch Lewis, chair of the CWI Cricket Strategy and Officiating Committee. And beside Enoch is our two-time winning World Cup captain, Sir Clive Lloyd, who is basically responsible for the role of the West Indies legends in this two-day affair of meetings. And at the extreme left, last but by no means least, the director of cricket, Miles Bascom. So first, we're going to have some opening remarks from the CEO, Mr. Chris Derring.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, lady and gentlemen. Over the last couple of days, we had a very interesting two-day summit involving, obviously, the greats of the game, people like Sir Clive Lloyd and Brian Lara. But we had also former West Indies cricketers like Ian Bradshaw, who is also, I have to acknowledge, who is also here with us this afternoon, and several other people joining in online and so on. We had Tony Gray, who was also here. We had people like Ronnie Sarwan, the president of WIPO, Mr. Wavell Hines, etc. It was a very interesting 2 days where not only did we hear from existing players, because we also had Mr. Royston Chase and Mr. Shai Hope join us for parts of the day, but we also heard from the existing management team, people like Coach Darren Sammy and Coach Floyd Reefer, etc., giving us an insight as to some of the challenges they're facing. These challenges are not new, but it's important that we were able to ventilate those challenges in the presence of the cricket committee chairman, Mr. Enoch Lewis, who guided the meeting in terms of how we went about understanding the various challenges that are faced, trying to discuss and ventilate some potential solutions to these challenges. And at the end of the day, we think we've come away with quite a number of almost a Christmas wish list of all the things that we need to put in place to get West Indies cricket back to where we all believe it belongs. So I will leave it to the individual gentlemen to give you their impressions of what took place over the last couple of days. But from Cricket West Indies management perspective, we'll be taking these action plans out of this meeting. We will have our own two-day retreat to delve into the action plans in more detail, cost them, try and pull together budgets, because we're going through that budgeting process as we speak, and look at what we will present to the Cricket West Indies board, first obviously to the cricket committee, to get their blessings as to what we want to do, to really bring life to some of the action plans and ideas and thoughts that have been put forward over the last 2 days. So that's our role as management. The role of the cricket committee, obviously led by Enoch, will be to help guide on the policies that the board will deliberate on, that we will want to implement over the next few months, short, medium, and long-term plans. So having said that, I'll turn it over now to Mr. Enoch Lewis, the chairman of the committee, who ably guided us over the last couple of days.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just to welcome you to this press conference. I am delighted to let you know that I think we had what I consider to be very productive 2 days in which information was shared and some decisions or recommendations came from those discussions. I want to say thank you to both Clive and Brian, you know, in particular for being here in person, and of course those who joined us online, like Ronnie and I wanted Tony Gray was here in person as well, and I want to commend everybody for their input. Coming out of these discussions, what we said in that meeting in particular was, look, we want to know what the challenges are, because we're looking for some sort of structural reform. We want to know what we need to do as a committee, what we need to recommend to Cricket West Indies so that we can reform cricket in a way that we can be proud, even more proud of the product that is on the field. I will just tell you that some of the things that came out of that was things like, you know, high performance center, putting in place a high performance center to assist with the development of, ongoing development of our cricketers. And things like that are exciting, academies in different territories, things like that are quite exciting. And so we will then put that before, as Chris mentioned as the CEO, we'll then put that before the management team, the executive team, and see how fast we can implement those. Because we expect some of those will be short term, some will be longer term, and that is yet to be determined. Again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to us collectively, both on the board, players, and as fans, moving West Indies cricket forward.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Sir Clive Lloyd, just give us your take on what took place across the 2 days.
Sure. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Brian and myself, we were quite happy to be at the meeting with the players and the coaches and so on, and we had a very good discussion. I must say I was very impressed because I've been to a couple of these things before, and we're hoping that all the things that we put forward and hope to see them come to fruition. I was very impressed with the coach, Darren Sammy, and the analysts. I thought they were very good. They sort of said things that were needed and why they were needed, and I sincerely hope that this isn't just come to some damp squid, that it is just that we will be able to get some of the things that they've asked for, because they are needed from the discussions that we've had. And I was very impressed, and I can say that everybody had a say, and it was well conducted. So I look forward to the results in the future.
Thank you, Sir Clive. Brian, just to give your take.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I must say I was pretty happy to be here over the last couple of days, discussing a sport and an organization that I spent my entire life with, you know, as a youngster growing up, as a fan, and eventually as a player, now as a past player. I must say, yes, I would say that it was very productive the last couple of days. I think one of the takeaways that I will mention is the fact that it's been that case for years, where we are not on the same level playing field as other playing countries. And back in the days where skill was the prominent factor, we excel. You know, we were the best team in the world. But the game has evolved a lot, and with technology and analytics, I think we now have to see a new way of finding ourselves back to being very competitive. I said not on a level playing field because a lot of the countries are far ahead in these sort of areas, and the skill factor of the game is still there, but not as prominent as it was in the past. I'm hoping, as Clive said, that some of the recommendations made by the coaches and the people that are involved, even us as former players, will be taken on board. It's a long road. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It was not about the 27 runs. If it was 57 or 107, would we be feeling any better? I don't think so. It's the fact that we've got something to address, and for us to get back on top or to be a competitive nation in world cricket, we've got to address these situations and address them shortly, quickly, and hopefully we can reap the benefit in years to come.
Thank you, Brian. Director of Cricket, Miles Bascom, will make his remarks in terms of some of the programming and technical and tactical developmental stuff that came out of the meeting.
Thank you, Jerome, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think that the last 2 days, if I could take one theme that pretty much ran across both days, was the fact that there was a recognition that the challenges we face are systemic, and so the strategies we implement, we have to look at addressing them across the entirety of our cricket system. It will not be Cricket West Indies alone. We will require the support of a lot of other stakeholders, but what I have taken on board, and I think what the entire group has recognized, is that it is our duty to show that change that is needed end to end. So the CEO mentioned the management team going back to look at what we can implement and how we can create budgets. The first part of that is actually identifying the challenges at every level of our production pipeline and coming up with the strategies in detail. We had a lot of very fruitful discussions and suggestions and recommendations, and our role now is to figure out how we put all of that together, right? How we put all of that together to ensure that we have a holistic sort of solution, and then we will engage all of the stakeholders necessary to help us along the way so that we can actually start to implement something that will mean meaningful systemic change for the betterment of West Indies cricket. So that is a challenge that I'm looking forward to. I'm sure the CEO and the rest of the management team, are happy to get down to really breaking out all of these individual pieces and then building it back together in terms of what we need to move West Indies cricket forward.
Thank you, Miles. And since we have the luxury of journalists in the room, we'll obviously take questions from them first, and then we'll take questions from those who are online afterwards. So, alternately in the room, I'd request that you raise your hands. Obviously, you could go to the microphone afterwards, after you have been acknowledged, mention where you're from, and then you can go by asking your questions. You can probably ask 2 questions first, based on the numbers, and then we'll decide going forward, because we have a maximum of 45 minutes. All right.
Vinod Nawani from TV6 Sport. I know that anytime you ask about West Indies cricket and the problems that it faces, many will talk about the tournament or the standard of the tournament, the pitches in the Caribbean, etc. If we had to really ask you guys here what the real problem is, what can you really say it is? Would you include those factors in it as well? Right. Start again? Yes. Right. So I'll start again. Right. Once again, I'm Vinod Nawani from TV6 Sport. And as I was mentioning, anytime you talk about West Indies cricket and its problems, the first thing that they talk about are the pitches in the Caribbean, the state of the tournaments, and so on, the regional tournaments. What exactly would you say is the problem with West Indies cricket?
It's in the question.
Anybody in the house, yeah.
Well, I think over the last 2 days, we identified maybe a list of about 100 things that we have to improve, but probably amongst the top 5 facilities for the development of our cricketers is, as you know, as Miles says, it's systemic. So, but we're talking about things like facilities at every level for the development of our cricketers, proper practice pitches across the region, the quality of our domestic tournament would have been highlighted. There's definitely a skills deficiency at various levels that are, you know, really don't get highlighted until they reach international level, and then you see the glaring deficiencies vis-a-vis our international counterparts, which again is systemic because it's very difficult, as you know, the batting coach pointed out today, it's very difficult to change habits when you're getting somebody who has made so many runs at regional level, but clearly have deficiencies when it comes to the international level. It's very hard to change them in just a couple of weeks, or especially during a series. So it's a systemic issue, so we have to try and address the issues that we're facing much earlier from a technical development perspective. There are issues surrounding strength and conditioning, which again points back to potentially facilities that are available to our youngsters and our emerging players, air teams, etc. So those would be some of the highlights which would have been pointed out. And solutions, as the chairman indicated, would have included things like making sure we have a proper high performance center established in the region. Hopefully that's just a prototype that will be then modeled and imitated across the region in other countries. Academy systems to make sure that the West Indies way of playing cricket is both documented and taught from very early, so that you're getting people who have been ingrained in the West Indies cricket way long before they reach international level, through under 15s, through under 17s, under 19s, and so on. So those would have been my takeaways immediately as the major problems that we face.
Comfortable with that answer? No, I think you're comfortable with. You don't want anybody else to respond. You're okay?
Well, okay, you know what? Probably. I'll direct the question to Mr. Brian Lara. What happened is that I know in this day and age you hear about, many would say players don't have an interest in West Indies cricket, but being a player yourself in the past, I'm sure you communicate more with players and you would know better than the outside world. So in your view, do you think that the players of this day and age don't show an interest towards West Indies cricket, or they do want to go all out and give it their best for the islands?
Well, I still think that West Indies cricket is still very important in the minds of all youngsters, male and female, when looking at cricket as a career. At one point, I think you've got to understand that during different eras or decades, there are different motivational factors. You know, if you want to talk about, you know, in the 50s and the early part of the 60s, we were thinking about the independence. You know, we can show our colonizers that we can play cricket, we can govern ourselves, and that was the important part in that period. In the 70s and 80s, I believe that under Sir Clive, it was all about trying to be the best team in the world after, you know, learning from previous decades. Presently, if I was to fast forward, I think the game is now very much commercialized, and the franchise system is definitely in the minds of every young person, and every parent as well. You know, when you see what's happening around the world with IPL and, you know, the American Cricket League and whichever else is going on. So the motivational factor is what we have to tap into. What motivates the youngsters today? And it might not just be representing West Indies, you know, 365 days of the year. It might be playing in an IPL or playing in a BBL or something else. So we have to be able to find out those interests and see where West Indies cricket can still benefit, you know, from these youngsters. It's unfortunate a young man at the age of 29 like Nicholas Puran will call an end to his international career. Find out the reasons why these things are happening and see how we can sort of stem that sort of situation and make sure that we concentrate a lot on getting the best players to play for West Indies, but under harmonious relationships. You know, it tends to be very sort of confrontational at times. I think the West Indies Cricket Board has realized, or Cricket West Indies have realized, that there must be a closer relationship with each and every single player, and not just at the highest level. You know, if you got your under 15s and under 17s, you got to be able to get ingrained in their minds how important West Indies cricket is. And Australia and England and India and these countries that benefit from wholeheartedness from their players and that passion that they still are playing for their country, we have to get that return to West Indies cricket.
Ian Wason, Guardian Media Limited. Now, we talk about technology, we talk about facilities, we talk about pitches, but at the same time, cricket is cricket. It played with a bat, a ball, 2 pairs of stumps, and things like that. So it's basically the same. What about, have any discussion have been made about the coaches? I spoke with a former West Indies player, a legend of the game, and he told me that years ago when he was correcting coaches' exam papers, he found that the coaches were wanting, the coaches were not passing. And the West Indies Cricket Board at the time was interested in numbers. So what he saw happening, that were coaches who were passing out and graduating with coaching certificates, who really didn't pass the exams. They were not good. So what we have a situation, we have coaches who should not be qualified. They are producing players who are not ready for international cricket. That's why when we're seeing players, instead of coming forward to a ball, they want to sweep. Instead of coming forward to a spinner with a ball pitched up, they're playing on the back foot when they should be playing on the front foot and things like that. What discussion have been taken place to address that, the things that we could address now? We're not talking about the facilities, we're not talking about the technology and the pitches, the players' technical ability.
It wasn't directed to me, but I think it's safe to say I'll take that one. So the our coaching education system is probably one of the things that from very early I recognized that we were not producing the level of coaches that we would want to ideally, based on the certification program, as it were. And we have now employed a coaching development consultant who works directly with our franchise coaches. And this is a bit of a stopgap measure as we look to revamp our coaching education system. And for the exact reason that you spoke about, that the game has moved on, and our coaching education system needs to move on along with that. So coaches now need to understand a lot of the technology that is integrated into the game. They need to be able to use that to assist their players. So what we want to do is to redevelop our coaching education system so that it is more modern and more current. And so that process has started already. We actually have a meeting on Thursday with a working group that is intended to relook the entire coaching education system, the coaching certification system, and bring it in line with what is more modern and current.
Also, I know that when we look at the recent results, our players are more successful with the white ball as opposed to the red ball. Of course, there are reasons why the balls, they are made differently, so the red ball would swing for longer periods and it would reverse swing. The white ball doesn't swing as much as the red ball. So we have our players who, because of the lack of technical ability, they will get away with white ball cricket. They will be successful, in want of a better word, in white ball cricket, but red ball cricket, where you need more technical ability because the ball would do more whether in the air or off the seam. However, recently the cricket board, the Cricket West Indies, changed a policy regarding players' availability to West Indies cricket, where you can be selected on the West Indies team in any format, despite playing any format, and so you can play List A cricket and get picked on the test team, because we had that policy change. Given what is happening recently with players struggling with the red ball, are there any plans to go back to the old policy? If you want to play test cricket, play first-class cricket, is there any thought of going back to that policy?
Well, I wouldn't look at it as we are saying that you don't have to play first-class cricket to play test cricket. That is still the preferred path, right? We expect that players who are interested in playing test cricket will hone their skills at the first-class level. What we are saying is that because someone has not been able to play first-class cricket, that will not preclude them from being considered for test cricket, right? So there's a difference there. It's not a case where we are encouraging players not to play first-class cricket because they would still be considered. It's a case where we still have that expected pathway that you come through first-class cricket and you hone your skills there and then you move into test cricket. But we are also saying that where a player has the requisite skills and we believe that they can make an impact in test cricket, we would not let the fact that they have not played first-class cricket for one reason or another, one of them being the fact that first-class cricket overlaps with some franchise league and they may go for those opportunities but then be available for us to play test cricket. So if we find that those players have the requisite skill, because that is what it boils down to, we are saying that we will not exclude them from being considered because they did not play first-class cricket.
Hi, good afternoon. Jelani Beckles, Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. Afternoon, everybody. My first question, to follow up on what my colleague asked, Brian Lara, I have a question for Miles Bascom. As Lara mentioned, Nicholas Puran, in the prime of his career, retiring at 29. How does Cricket West Indies make playing for West Indies more attractive to youngsters? Because most of us in here would remember the pinnacle was West Indies cricket, not IPL or these franchise leagues. I know it's tough to compete financially with these leagues, but how do we get, from a Cricket West Indies point of view, I know Lara touched on it, to make West Indies cricket a dream?
I still think that, and Brian said it, that it is still part of the dream of any young cricketer in the region. We spent a lot of time over the last 2 days talking about educating our young players, right? And not just our young players, educating our young people of the region about what this thing called West Indies cricket means, why it means so much to so many people, right? And, they're growing up in a time where, they are far removed from our colonial history, right? And if we don't teach them about that era and what cricket was able to do for West Indian people at home and in the diaspora, it is very difficult to inculcate the type of passion and love that everybody at this table and many of you in the audience feel about West Indian cricket, because we understand what it means to us. So we have to educate our young people about what West Indies cricket means, why there is such a high expectation on players who put on that maroon, and why people are so hurt when we are not doing so well. So that, for me, I think is where we have to go in terms of getting players. We will never be able to compete with franchise money. I think everybody acknowledges that. So it has to be pride in the performance and pride in representing the West Indies.
Is that the situation too? Sorry. Now that it's a different era. I mean, when we were coming through Shell Shield and so on, we had some of the best players around, some of the greatest players playing. You, as a youngster, you're playing against Wes Hall and Charlie Griffith, Lance Gibbs, Canai, and so on. The young players that we have now, they didn't have the grounding that we have. We had county cricket too. So that shaped us rather quickly. So we became better players because our standard of cricket in the West Indies was quite high, and then we had county cricket. These guys, we were expecting them to do extremely well, but we have to work out exactly what is happening with them. There, as I said earlier today in the meeting, that we now have cricketers that are like half-baked. They're not fully professional of such. So they will have a longer time to get to the standard that we expect. So what we had is not going to have a quick fix. It will take some time for players, the young players, to get to the standard that we want. And I hope that with the influx of, we have one or two good, I think I'm very impressed with a couple of the coaches and so on, and the way they've put things across. So we'll have to take some time and wait and see exactly how they come out. But at the moment, they're at a real disadvantaged situation. But I still think that we have some very good players, and it's how we harness that talent, and let's hope that we can do so successfully as the time goes on.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that it's a subject area that was discussed extensively over the past 2 days, to the extent that teachers felt that we would approach the relevant stakeholder to see how we can have a plan for cricket history to be implemented in schools. And then further to that, we'll be more intentional in terms of ensuring that whenever we have our age group cricket, that we share information of West Indies cricket with those cricketers, so they understand that it's just not just playing the sport, but there is the value of the cricket to the region will be more readily understood.
And my next question has a two-part question. Is Darren Sammy's honeymoon period over? I know he inherited a team that was struggling for years. That's the first part. And is the board saving money by hiring Sammy as an all-format coach and sole selector? And is this arrangement structure being revisited as being the sole selector and all-format coach? Thank you.
I don't know that there's ever really a honeymoon period in West Indies cricket.
My honeymoon period over.
But in terms of, I could definitely say there's no real significant savings in terms of having Darren as all-format coach, because we would still need support. We still need additional support for him. So we'll still have to have camps. Many times he would not be available himself because he would be on tour. And so we will still need to bring in other support staff, which would come at a cost. So there was definitely no financial sort of consideration in terms of merging the roles. the underlying reason there was that we felt that Darren had been able to articulate a clear plan, and we saw him do that in the white ball formats, both T20 and ODI, and we pretty much wanted the same sort of approach because we saw some success once we had gotten that done, and we wanted the same sort of approach towards Test cricket. He is still only one series into his tenure as all-format coach, and while the 27 is the highlight, might be the highlight of that, or low light of that first series, we have to admit that we saw some substantial improvement in terms of our bowling unit. We saw even a Brandon King, who is one of those players who some persons might have pigeonholed as a white ball player. We saw that he was able to show that, he was up for the challenge of Test cricket, at least in that one inning. But I think that was, some light there. So as Darren goes on, and as we start to put some of the strategic initiatives in place to help the team to prepare and help the players to grow their potential, we expect that performances will be better.
All right. Thank you, Miles. Oh, there's another question from in the room. All right, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Hamza Mohammed here from Caribbean Lifestyle Communications. It's not a question directed for one person per se, but I guess anybody could weigh in. We speak about test match cricket, and I think everyone would have mentioned bits of pieces as to kind of lead into a solution. But Sir Clive Lloyd mentioned just now, it's a totally different era, and it's a totally different era of players. The reality is, jump high, jump low, it's a commercialized game when it comes to the shorter format of the game. But do you think that when you look at teams like India, England, for example, look how long India took before they sent someone outside of their quote-unquote test team then to play, let's say, county cricket or even T20 competitions. Do you think that we can develop some sort of policy where our test players, if you want to call them that, our bunch of test players, see test cricket when we have tours or even home and away, that they put West Indies test team as priority as compared to saying, well, okay, they want to go outside and play franchise cricket. Do we have any repercussions for that? Do you think that could actually lead to the current group of grassroots players saying, well, okay, I want to be a test player, so I'll take test cricket serious. I'll put that as a forefront as compared to T20 cricket?
I don't know that any sort of measures that are restrictive would be a potential solution. The reality is that franchise cricket and T20 cricket it's here, and it's not likely going anywhere anytime soon. So we have to develop cricketers. We have to develop people who are capable of playing all formats of the game. And I mean, everybody will agree that I'll steal from Sir Clive, and he says that your test cricket, the long format, takes care of the shorter formats. And if we can get our players to understand that the foundation that you gain from playing long format cricket will help you in any avenue that you want to go beyond that, then we will ensure that we have cricketers who are capable of playing test cricket and representing West Indies, and then they may still be able to play in shorter formats for West Indies and for various teams across the world in leagues.
I think people must realize too that, as far as I'm concerned, that T20 is an exhibition and Test cricket is an examination. And the point is that we are a very invidious situation. I mean, when you're getting offered the type of money that these guys are being offered, You know, it's only one way they're going to go. And it's a lot of money. Um, so the point is that we have to try and keep the guys that we have, teach them the right things, and hope that our cricket will still be in shape. Because don't forget, 5 million people, different walks of life. It's only a small cadre of people playing cricket, or playing sport for that matter. You go to England, they have 365 cricketers. India's got 1.25 billion people. Pakistan got about 80 million or more. New Zealand is the only country that probably have the same people that we have. Sri Lanka's got a lot of people. So they can lose players and still retain that standard that is needed. So we are in a very invidious position, and we're hoping that we can get our players to do both, if possible. It might be difficult, but somebody's got to, be in there and bang that drum, hoping that they will keep playing. They can play some of the T20, but still play for us. If not, we will be, if we lose 5, we got to bring another 5. Then we lose another 5, and we bring another 5. It's like digging a hole to fill a hole. We don't have the population, so we have to try and keep the players that we think are test match players or one-day players for them playing for us.
So, Clive mentioned that, earlier that we're living in a different times in terms of a different era, and it's absolutely true. In Clive days, it was West Indies, another option. Today, there are several other options. And the way the cricketer sees it, it's loyalty to West Indies or loyalty to my family. And when you look at it this way, you understand where they're going to go. So Cricket West Indies now have to try and strike some sort of balance. Of course, you encourage loyalty to West Indies cricket, but at the same time, you got to find a way of balancing, just like in life, and you have to balance life. You got to find a way of balancing that situation. More education, more history in terms of where we're from, in terms of getting players to understand there's a purpose, there's a value to cricket in terms of the West Indies, what it has meant to West Indians, whether we're living here or in the diaspora, how important it is. All of those are factors you hope that they take into account over and above just loyalty to West Indies and loyalty to their family. And at the end of the day, they too strike a balance. Because I would just mention to you that Cricket West Indies, in recognition of the fact that we don't have the resources to pay a player $2 million like some of the other territories per year, like some of the other territories are doing, have opened the IPL window and said, during that IPL window, gentlemen, you can go and make some more money, right? Our hope is that they would have played the IPL and then come to West Indies. But what has happened is subsequently the leagues have just popped up all around the world, and the guys are seeing big money being offered to them, and they are trying to take advantage of it as much as possible, even at the expense of West Indies cricket. We got to find a way, not Cricket West Indies, but collectively, all of us in the West Indies, own the Cricket West Indies and the rest of the shareholders, to try and encourage those players to play for West Indies and perform for West Indies to ensure that we can regain our cricket legacy as one of the best playing territories in the world.
I just wanted to add that there was a saying that was developed came about in the 1950s, that you can't stop rock and roll. And it is germane even to this discussion in the sense that the world of cricket is evolving. Cricket West Indies really just has to try and keep pace and adapt as quickly as possible to the evolution that takes place. And so franchise cricket has come along. It has grown incredibly. You know, I will tell you, I was at the ICC when the ECB presented this thing called T20 cricket, and quite frankly, back then I thought it was a gimmick. I'd seen Hong Kong sixes come and go. I'd seen double wicket competitions, and I thought this was just another gimmick. And lo and behold, it has taken the world by storm. Now, it has taken the world by storm to the extent that it's creating all these ancillary franchise leagues aside from the IPL. But who knows if they will last? Because you see already certain financial issues evolving, coming out of those leagues. Then you've seen some just very exciting test match cricket being played and so on. And you wonder, are we going to maybe go through another cycle? The last 15, 20 years has seen the incredible growth of T20 cricket. Who knows, maybe we're on the verge of a rebirth of test cricket again. And I think that would be helpful and useful for us as Cricket West Indies to stay abreast, to keep the fire burning as much as we can for test cricket, because who knows, the pendulum could swing again. And you could see broadcaster interest again in test cricket. You know, there's a lot of debate taking place now on the potential of a two-tiered system and changing the financial model that underpins test cricket. All of that, we have a role to play. We have a seat at the table at the ICC, and we have to just stay abreast as close as possible to all the changes that could happen, position ourselves, hedging our bets, so to speak, to make sure that we're in there as West Indies cricket, no matter which way the wind blows, and try and take advantage of it, no matter what happens. So that's basically the position we have to take, keeping abreast of everything that's taking place and positioning ourselves for the future.
The point is too that we have to look at what's happening at the ICC with the share out of the money. India, Australia, and England get 180 million. And the West Indies will get 80 million, just like Bangladesh, Afghanistan. And we are 2 years off, I think, of being in that group for 100 years. So to me, that's not right. Good? And the point is, we have to stand up. We're hoping to go to the ICC and ask a special dispensation. Because, you know, when we were in the ascendancy and we were doing so well, everybody wanted to play against us. We were playing Australia very often, playing England very often. And when we go to Pakistan and India, they were getting millions of people. We need to get better stands, and, you know, better facilities really of such. India just built the Modi Stadium. Can hold 150,000 people. You think we'll get one like that here? When would we get that? And the point is that, you know, we don't have the population to fill those sort of things. But the point is we need to get a better share of the pie. Because we were the, you know, the cash cow for quite a few people for a long time. And we need to get some of that. And I'm hoping that the board do make that recommendation, you know, follow up on that recommendation where we can be adequately given the money that is needed.
Thank you, Sir Clive. I'm going to be taking questions from those online because obviously there are no more from those in the room. This one is for Mr. Lewis. Do we believe our territorial boards know how to implement systems that develop players? This is from Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Look, I don't know if it's a question of whether or not I believe. If you look historically, you would see that our territorial boards have developed cricketers over the years. Times have changed, and of course, with evolution, probably the territorial boards have not necessarily kept pace like scientifically. But I think the absence of resources is a factor as well. But I think that everybody's trying to see exactly what can be done. development of a player to me is like two ways. Those players have to be able to want to put in the work as well. Because in the absence of, sometimes there's an absence of, let's say, all the necessary facilities. But I've always said to young people who I speak to that some of the most successful persons in the world lacked resources, and still they overcome the odds to become, to be top in their field, their specialized field, the area they have chosen. So yes, I would say that territorial boards have developed players of theirs, and I think that there are still efforts, ongoing efforts to do that. They would need some work though in terms of players getting as far as that level. Needs to have certain skill sets when they get there. And the absence of school cricket, I'm talking about school cricket, which is now really, sadly have declined to a level where it's really immature-ish. That is a factor that is inhibiting the growth of players as well. The territorial boards are definitely trying, and hopefully with a little bit more resources and some input in terms of technology, that we'll be able to produce even more than they are doing now.
Thank you. This one is from Leighton Levy from Jamaica. Why is it that we have not implemented an integrated grassroots program with an associated matriculation system that sees the best players selected at the respective regional teams right up to the test level? I think this will be for DOC.
Just run it over from the top, Jerome.
Why is it that we have not implemented an integrated grassroots program with an associated matriculation system that sees the best players selected to represent the respective regional teams right up to the test level?
I think grassroots cricket, especially since we've lost the kiddie cricket program, takes different forms in different territories. So it's difficult to have one program that operates the same way across all of the territories. And the age at which these players come out of grassroots cricket, there is no structured program at the CWI level. So the way it used to work is that you would play kiddie cricket, and then you would play primary school cricket, and you go into early secondary school. In some cases, there were under 15 tournaments. So the secondary school tournaments would be two-part, where you have a under 15 level tournament, and then players from that would matriculate into national under 15 team, having local scouts looking at secondary school cricket and drawing out a pool of players who would vie for an opportunity to play for under 15 team. And then, your under 15 team will come to a regional tournament. And similarly, the senior secondary school players would be called in a pool that would play, that would vie for a spot in the under 19 teams, and then you come to an under 19 tournament. So that system, as Director Lewis just said, has broken down somewhat in that, a lot of schools now don't play either primary or secondary school cricket, or the level of the primary and secondary school cricket have deteriorated to a point that you don't have the same sort of quality of cricketers coming through. So that is something, again, that was discussed extensively over the 2 days. We have spoken about our ability to actually track players from those levels, and we have committed to finding some sort of a program, or building it if necessary, to start to track players from those very early programs, grassroots programs, primary school programs, etc., so that we have an understanding of what that catchment is like, what the pool of players that we are going to draw from will eventually be like. And I expect that that would help in terms of developing systems around that to ensure that we can streamline the movement of players through our pathways.
All right, thank you, DOC. I have 3 more questions before the CEO will just close. Australia's CEO, Todd Greenberg, recently spoke about his interactions with you at the recent ICC meeting in Singapore. He has already publicly supported the idea of Australia, India, and England doing more to help West Indies being more competitive in Test cricket. Can you elaborate further on your discussions with the Cricket Australia CEO?
Well, quite interestingly, when the first person I ran into at the ICC meetings in the airport was the Australian CEO. And of course, I had just left Sabina Park, where we had been dismissed for 27. And he was the first to sort of empathize because he said, reminded me that just a couple of years ago, Australia had been bowled out for 47 by South Africa. But in fact, they were 21 for 9. And if not for 2 drop catches, they would have had the world record for the lowest test score. So I think what he was trying to say, look, these things happen, don't be despondent. And I think what Todd expressed to me then and in subsequent conversations is that the world of cricket does feel a sense of gratitude towards the West Indies for what the legends like Clive Lloyd and even before him, Sir Frank Worrell, etc., had done. There's a reason, for instance, why every country wants India to tour now, because that's where most countries make their money. And there's a reason why India always makes a point to include the West Indies on the schedule, no matter how strong or weak we're perceived to be. And in fact, you know, when we discussed it with BCCI, they were like, you know, Chris, don't worry, we will never forget the West Indies. Because of the history of everything that, you know, West Indies cricket had contributed to world cricket, but in particular the kind of relationships that were built many, many years before us. You know, there's a Sir Frank Worrell Day every year in Calcutta. You know, it's just, we do have a tremendous amount of goodwill. How to take advantage of it has always been the challenge. And we do have to try and come up with some programs that they might be willing to support. In fact, Brian has come up with a couple of ideas, but I won't share here because before we discuss it at cricket committee, discuss it at our management team to see how we can get it done. Sir Clive has also volunteered to be part of a delegation to lead on some of these initiatives. So we will be taking advantage of some of the offers that have been made. But it's not even as much, not even the international territories and countries like Australia and India, the big 3, and England and so on that we have to rely on. The United States is a massive market that beckons beside us, and the US cricket has even reached out to us. They just recently crossed the 400,000 registered cricketers barrier, 53,000 under 14. And so when you have the USA participating in all domestic tournaments, some people think of it as developing and helping to develop USA, but it's also helping to develop Cricket West Indies and West Indies cricketers at every level. And so they have reached out and looking at areas to cooperate, to collaborate. They're the second largest television market in the world, second or third largest television market in the world for cricket. And so you understand the importance of making sure we create allies in this part of the world, and also maintaining the friendships and allies that we have with India, Australia, and England. So we will be trying to take advantage of it, and some of the ideas were discussed at this over the last couple of days, and we're certainly going to be taking up Brian and Sir Clive on their very generous offers to get involved.
All right, thank you, CEO. And the penultimate question, well, the last 2 questions are from us, but the penultimate one is, what KPIs will decide if reform is working, whether it is the team KPIs, pathway KPIs, coach KPIs, and how often will they be published to the rest of the stakeholders?
I assume this is from Caribbean Cricket.
No, this is from Nazira. Mohammed.
Okay. When we develop our plan, a part of developing any plan that is going to be sustainable and implementable will be to establish KPIs. So we know what we are judged on. We are judged on our win-loss ratio. So that definitely has to be one of them. But I expect that we would also look at player development as one, because we trust that if we are able to get our players to develop their skill levels, support them in actually developing their skill levels, that we will get some results, more W's, as Michelle says from time to time. But in developing our plan, that holistic plan, we will be developing the KPIs that we will use to gauge our successful implementation of those plans alongside the development of that strategy.
The final question has to do with the selection policy, removal of the selector, as well as explaining what the process is in terms of the selection of a team. And that it's not just the coach who picks the team.
Yes. So our selection process involves, at the first stage, the gathering of information on the players in our region, right? And that comes from the territorial talent IDs, who are, for the most part, the lead selectors in every territory. And the thinking there is simply that these are the people who are scouring their territories daily, looking for whatever talent is available. So those persons gather information on the players and their skill sets. That information is then sent to our senior talent manager, Jamal Smith, who collates all of that into depth charts by territory, and a depth chart for West Indies teams. When we need to select a team for a tour or a tournament, a series or a tournament, the head coach will then provide a strategy for that particular series, right? So if it's subcontinent, we may need 2 spinners, 3 or 4 seamers, whatever that outline is based on the strategy for that series, that is developed by our head coach. The head coach and the senior talent manager, along with any other additional resources that is deemed necessary to engage in that discussion, many times that would include the analyst. In fact, all the times it would include the analyst. It may include the batting coach, bowling coach, but definitely the head coach and the senior talent manager will convene that meeting. And the purpose of that meeting is to match every role that is outlined in that strategy to the most suitable player based on the data that we have available. So the head coach will, for example, if you're looking at an aggressive opening batsman, if that is what is outlined as what is needed to be effective against that opposition in those conditions, then the discussion ensues between the head coach, his batting coach, the senior talent manager, who has all of the data about all of the players, and they will discuss which player is the most suitable to fit the role. If there are multiple players who are being considered and a choice has to be made, the head coach has the final say, right? And I think that aspect of it is the part that some people take to understand to mean that the head coach is the only one doing the job. But the head coach has never once unilaterally selected a team and sent it to me as director of cricket, right? So the process involves the head coach, the senior talent manager, any other resource persons, which includes the analysts, and they go through a process of determining for each role which player is the most suitable to fit that role.
Thank you, Miles. And we'll just close out today's proceedings with some remarks from the CEO, Mr. Chris Daring, in terms of just reestablishing or reinforcing long-term plans and sustainable development.
Thank you, Jerome, and thank you everybody for coming today. I want to thank the chairman for leading the 2 days of very in-depth and enthralling discussions at times. Sir Clive Lloyd and Brian Lara, who gave us of their time. In fact, all the people who participated the last 2 days. We want to assure you on behalf of Cricket West Indies that we take everything that was said, all the recommendations that were given, very seriously. And we will, with our own plans, one of the things that was quite almost gratifying was it validated many of the things that we had been working on behind the scenes already. So it definitely helps when you have people the caliber of Sir Clive Lloyd and Brian Lara and Ian Bradshaw basically saying and endorsing some of the things that and the plans that we outlined we might be looking at doing. It's not going to be an easy road. There are going to be, I think, have to be a building block approach, like almost like creating using a Lego set, because we're not going to be able to build everything at once. But there are certain things that we know are priorities, and we're going to have to find a way to prioritize them, to make sure we have the budgets that fund them, and we need to execute and deliver them. And we're very, very confident that we'll be able to deliver on many of the items in very short order. Some items, it's going to take some thought, it's going to take some innovation, it's going to take some risk-taking, but we know that the end result is worth it. I want to acknowledge the presence of the president of Cricket West Indies, who snuck in and is pretending to be a member of the media. But I know that the board is fully behind everything that Sir Clive, Brian, and the other gentlemen who participated today have recommended. There's never been a question of doubting the kind of intelligence, the kind of insights that could be provided by these gentlemen. And we're just really happy to have them involved. We want to keep them involved, keep them, but the only way we know we can keep them involved is if we deliver on some of the things that we've promised to deliver for them, which again will redound to the benefit of West Indies cricket. So it's not going to be easy, but cricket, and I want to emphasize that Cricket West Indies can't do it alone. There are many elements in the production pipeline that are not within our control. There's age group cricket within the individual countries. There's schools that are run by governments. There's airlines that need to provide logistical support. And so, across the length and breadth of the country, of the region, we're going to have to pool all the resources at our disposal. We face an incredible commercial gap between ourselves and the other cricket-playing territories. Let's not fool ourselves. But that commercial gap can only be bridged if we come together as a region and use what we know that we have to challenge that commercial gap. One is the athletic quotient. Two is the indomitable spirit of the Caribbean. And I have every confidence that collectively we can overcome these hurdles and put West Indies cricket back where we all know it belongs. Thank you everybody for coming, and we look forward to your support.
Good luck to West Indies tomorrow. As you say, life is not meant to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but I'm sure the young players that we have, with the right sort of guidance, that we can get there, but it will take some time, and it will take the type of guidance that is needed. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, Sir Clive. And I want to say thanks again to the CEO, Mr. Chris Daring, former captain Brian Lara, who had to leave because of personal reasons, Mr. Enoch Lewis, who is the chair of the CWI Cricket Strategy and Officiating Committee, Sir Clive Lloyd, former West Indies captain, legendary, and obviously the director of cricket, Mr. Miles Bascom. I'm Jerome Foster, and as Sir Clive said, continue to rally around the West Indies.
Can you feel the love on a stranger's face? Look at the West Indies. West Indies cricket is all our legacy. It's our energy when we come down here. Time to rally around the West Indies. It's in every creed and race. West Indies are the holy grail. West Indies is where we from. Sunshine and sweet steel drums. No boundary could stop, we might. When the West Indies unite, everybody charge up. West Indies going higher, full of energy, energy. Everybody charge up. West Indies going higher, full of energy, energy. Where we come from, six is raining down. Where we come from, ignite the whole stadium. Look around, it's all away. Jumping up as from Malaya. Tell the bad vibes not today. West Indies full of energy. Look around, it's all away. Every hand up in the air. Tell the bad vibes not today. The West Indies full of energy. I know where my heart is. I'm a proud West Indian. When we rain in the sixes, we rock the stadium. Win, lose or draw, we celebrating.